Hi everyone, I'm excited to show you our next assignment that we're going to be doing together. So I'm going to ask you to gather your pen or pencil, something to write in, your SPEC folder or your notebook, either one, and also make sure out of your bag, pull out your article. This is the article we're going to be reading together. It's actually two articles. Make sure you have this in front of you as we read. One quick reminder though, when we printed the packet, one of the pages got flipped. So make sure you're reading the pages in order as we're reading through it. Make sure you're on page 1, page 2, and then I think page 3 and 4 got mixed up. So make sure you're flipping to the right page before you move on, okay? I'm going to be asking you to write down notes. So make sure you have your notebook open and ready to write. And I'll show you how to set up your notebook right before I ask you to write, okay? So, but it is important that you have this in front of you because you're going to be reading along with me and also circling some unknown words, some words that you might not know. And then we're going to define them together and I'll show you pictures or images of them so that you understand what it's saying. Okay, so also don't forget to pause the video if you need time to gather all your materials so that you don't miss out on the read aloud, okay, or the read along. Go ahead and pause if you need to, and if you're ready to go, so then great, let's get started, okay? I'm gonna share my screen with you because I have it on the screen. I'm gonna share that screen with you, but I still need you to have it in front of you because I'm gonna ask you to circle some of the words that we're gonna be reading. Okay, so this is our assignment, okay? So we're gonna be reading this together for a couple of days. So make sure that you have your packet ready every time we read this together. And our final project is to write an essay, an informational essay. So make sure that we keep all of our notes together and gather all the information that we need so that we can write this essay together, okay? So let me read you our assignment and our tasks. So this is a task. Your class has been learning about different types of jobs to prepare for your school's job week. Your teacher has asked each person to learn about a different job. You think being an astronaut must be an interesting job, so you decide to learn about what it is like to be an astronaut. You have found 2 sources about being an astronaut. After you have reviewed these sources, you will answer some questions about them. Briefly scan the sources and the 3 questions that follow. Then go back and read the sources carefully so you will have the information you will need to answer the questions and complete your research. Okay. In part 1, you will answer questions about the reading passage. Okay, so in part 2, you will write an informational article using information you have read. So here it is. We have part 1 and part 2. There's 2 things that we have to do for this assignment, okay? And we're gonna split this up. Don't worry, we're not doing it all in one day. So we're gonna take time and pace it out so that we do it together and we understand what we're doing, okay? Directions for beginning. Here we go. You will now review 2 sources. You can review either of the sources as often as you like. So of course you have it with you so you can read it as many times as you like. I'm gonna read it with you first, okay? Research questions. After reviewing the research sources, use the rest of the time in part 1 to answer 3 questions about them. Your answer to these questions will be scored. Also, your answers will help you think about the information you have read and viewed, which should help you write your informational article. So we're gonna, again, split it up. So the first read that we're gonna do together today, it's to understand what the articles are saying, okay? So we're gonna do one read for both articles, and it's going to be understanding the reading, understanding the article. So this is our first source. The first source is titled, "What is an Astronaut?" So this is a short article on what an astronaut is. So again, get your article ready because I'm gonna ask you to circle some of these words that we might not understand. So let's start from the top. Source for performance tasks, source 1. You have found a source describing the type of training that astronauts receive in order to do their job. So If you don't know what an astronaut is, astronauts are they are the ones that travel to space to, well, obviously the article is going to tell us a little bit more about it, but I just want you to know what an astronaut is so that you understand what we're reading. So an astronaut is a person that would travel into space, and you might have seen them with these big heavy gears and like big helmet and these big white suits that they carry so that they can survive up in space, right? So let's take a read. Go ahead and read this, and then I'll show you some images as well. So here we go. What is an Astronaut by Talia Yi. Have you ever thought about what it is like in space? Astronauts are people who go out in space. Being an astronaut is an exciting job. Astronauts who see Earth from space say that it is round like a ball. While in space, astronauts can look down and see clouds, land, and water. Some can even see the moon up close. Astronauts get the chance to see more stars than you or I have ever seen. Being an astronaut may be exciting, but it is not an easy job. A person who wants to be an astronaut has to study for years. There are many things an astronaut must learn to do before going into space for the first time. Okay, let's keep reading. So I want you to circle this first word, okay? A weightless astronaut in space. So go ahead and circle the word weightless. A weightless astronaut in space. Astronauts train for hundreds of hours. During their training, they learn about space. This type of training might include studying the stars on and Earth. It is important that astronauts study space so that they understand what they will work with while in space. The astronauts also learn medical skills like basic first aid during their training. This training allows them to treat simple medical problems so that they can keep each other healthy and safe in space. In their training, astronauts also learn that life is like that life is like on the International Space Station. So I'm going to have you circle International Space Station. So this is a place where it's going to tell you about it. So I'll read that first sentence again. In their training, astronauts also learn what life is like on the International Space Station, the ISS. The ISS is a large spacecraft that orbits the Earth. I also want you to go ahead and circle orbit. Okay. The ISS is a place where astronauts do science experiments. While in space, astronauts also learn to eat, exercise, and do experiments while floating in the air. They also practice riding in spatial vehicles that are just for space. These vehicles bring supplies like food and fuel to the ISS. The vehicles are about the size of a pickup truck with 12 wheels. Astronauts even take classes in scuba diving. So go ahead and circle scuba diving as well. So they have to take classes in scuba diving. When they're walking underwater in their scuba suits, astronauts feel the same as they would feel walking in space. Lastly, astronauts must also learn how to work together as a team. This is important because as many as 8 astronauts may be in one spacecraft. These astronauts have to learn how to live and work together in space. Each astronaut has a special job to do as part of the team. Some astronauts learn how to put things together so they become good at fixing things. This is important because if something on a spaceship breaks, the astronauts must be able to fix it themselves. Some astronauts are pilots who know how to fly airplanes. These astronauts have to study how to fly and steer a spaceship. They train for many hours to learn how to turn it, how to make it go faster, slower, and how to guide it through space. Some astronauts and leaders and are in charge of all of the people on the ship. To make sure that everybody is doing the right job, other astronauts learn mostly about science. Their job is to learn how living things change when they are in space. Although each astronaut has a special job on the team, each of them has to learn how to work where there's no gravity. When they are in spaceships that is moving around the Earth, they can feel as though they do not weigh anything. They are able to float. Many astronauts say that it is fun to float around the inside of a spaceship. Objects in spaceship can also float, so astronauts can lift and move heavy things easily. Feeling weightless is fun, but being in space is work for astronauts. Astronauts must be healthy and eat right. They have to exercise and be in good shape. Astronauts have many adventures, but they work hard too. Okay, so that's the first article, my friends. Let's read the second one. This one's short. Okay, life in space. Okay, many people, Life in Space by Erin Higgins. Many people say that they want to be an astronaut, but do they know what it's really like? When astronauts are in space, they feel weightless. They can float. This sounds like fun, but it is not that simple. The human body is used to being on Earth, but some people stay out in space for months. A lot of strange things happen to the body when it floats for that long. Astronauts sometimes feel sick in space. It takes a few days for them to get used to feeling weightless and being able to float. Being in space also changes how blood flows in the body. In space, more blood flows to the astronauts' heads, so their faces get puffy and their necks get bigger. At the same time, less blood flows to their legs, making them skinny. They call this condition bird legs. To help keep their muscles strong, astronauts have to do exercises when they are in space. They use big rubber bands attached to the walls of the ship and hook them over their shoulders. Then they bend their knees and press against the rubber bands to make their legs stronger. Even with regular exercise in space, astronauts come back feeling weak. It takes time for them to get back their Earth legs and learn how to live with gravity again. Okay, that was the end of the second article. Okay, so now that we read both articles, I'm going to ask you to create. Let me go back and share my screen. I want to ask you to create in your notebooks, okay, a T-chart. One that says source 1, what is an astronaut, on one side, and source 2, life in space, on the other side. Okay. Go ahead and pause the video, get your paper set up this way. Okay, so if you're done setting up your paper, I'm gonna go ahead and start with my notes. Going back to your article, you should have it in front of you. Make sure you go back. And I'm gonna get you started, but your assignment is to go back and jot down some notes about while you read the article one more time. Jot down some notes that are important that you know we need to have on here, important details and notes about source 1 and important details and notes about source 2, okay? So let me get you started. What is an astronaut? So let's jot down what was the most important thing that you remember hearing on what an astronaut is, or what is it that they do. So if you remember, being an astronaut is, oops, spelled it wrong here. Never mind. Sorry, guys. Let me erase this. Okay, how do we erase this? Okay, there it is. And so it's a lot of work for sure. Being an astronaut, for sure. What else do we remember? They have to do a lot of training. Okay. So you're going to continue jotting down as you read your article one more time, jotting down all the other notes that you feel that are important that we need to have under source one. Let me get you started on source two. Source two, I'm going to flip back to source two. Source two, remember it talks about that the body of an astronaut goes through changes when they're up in space, right? So the astronauts go through, or the astronauts' body go through many changes while they are up in space. Okay. They also have, there's a condition that they call their legs, remember, because they lose muscle on their legs, bird legs, and then it's just define it when astronauts lose muscle in their legs. Okay. You can jot down some other notes that you remember from there. Read the articles again, continue jotting down notes, and next time we meet, we will be talking about our notes and getting it together, starting to look at our part one assignment, okay? I also wanted to, the words that we circled, those words that we circled, see if you can do some research, whether on your parents' phone with permission, make sure you ask, or if you have your computer, type in those words in the search engine of Google, and make sure that you take a look at what the meaning of these words are, so that when we come back tomorrow or next time we meet, we will be looking at the definitions and understand what it was saying in the article or what it meant in the article. Okay, so that's also part of your assignment. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Make sure you do your T-chart and complete all of your notes and have them ready for our next meet. Okay, this is only part one. Don't forget, we're going to have part two and part three of our assignment under this SBAC assignment of the astronaut essay, okay? Have a good day. Don't forget to complete your work for today. Thanks, guys.